The new transgender boxing policy has everybody outraged on social media, and we've got the whole story on the Happy Punch News. So today, it has been announced by the USA Boxing governing body that they will be allowing transgender athletes to compete in both the male and female divisions starting in 2024. This is one of the most controversial stories I've seen all year, with everybody from influencer boxers to fighters to politicians to celebrities getting involved and giving their takes, most of which are negative. We actually had our whole team scour the internet, look for someone who's on board with this new decision that allows people who have transitioned from the gender they were assigned at birth to a new gender. There's primarily concerns about people who were born male transitioning into female and fighting at this level. We had our whole team look around on Twitter, look around on Instagram, look around everywhere. Are there people who are in favor of this new USA Boxing rule? And basically, we found maybe one or two people who were even in the ballpark of agreeing with it. I think we had Alana McLaughlin, who's a transgender fighter in MMA. She had a couple of messages, but she was really just arguing with trolls. And then there was Melody Joy from thebeautyofboxing.com who kind of was arguing about the disadvantages that come with being an athlete going through rigorous gender affirming care. But generally, people are outraged about this story. So let's get into exactly what this news means. So USA Boxing, which is the governing body for amateur boxing in America, which means Olympic style boxing, the amateur game, not pro boxing, not no headgear, 10-ounce gloves. They have announced that a boxer who transitions from male to female is eligible to compete in the female category under the following conditions. The athlete has declared that her gender identity is female and has completed gender reassignment surgery. The athlete, for a minimum of 4 years after surgery, has had quarterly hormone testing and presents USA Boxing documentation of hormone level. The athlete must demonstrate that her total testosterone level in serum has been below 5 nanomoles per liter for at least 48 months prior to her first competition. The athlete's total testosterone level in serum must remain below 5 nanomoles per liter throughout the period of desired eligibility to compete in the female category. Now, for context, most women have in the region of 0.5 to 2.4 nanomoles per liter, which is around half, maybe a little bit less than half of the amount that trans athletes are allowed to reach to compete in the sport. So obviously people on social media are going nuts, as they tend to do. First off, I want to hear from the leading voice in transgender issues, HS Tiki Talkie, and hear what he has to say.
How far is this going to go before the world just comes together and says, no, this is a mental illness, it's so fucking What is next? Transgender guys just going in women's toilets because they fancy it one day, they're a different sex? It's ridiculous. Guys fighting in a women's sport is just absurd. The world just needs to stop this before it goes too far. Transformers, off.
So there's basically been condemnation across the board. Obviously, all these female athletes, some legendary fighters, Amanda Serrano, Chris Cyborg from the worlds of MMA and boxing, some newer world champions like Ebony Bridges, who just lost her belt recently. That's not to mention all of the men who are getting involved. And believe it or not, they're all against the decision. You've Dean the Great, Mams Taylor, who's the promoter of Misfits Boxing, not happy with the decision. I want to take a look at some of the tweets that I've read and gauge the general interest in this decision. So let's first hear from the legendary Amanda Serrano. She says, make it make sense. Women who were born women can't compete against women under the same rules as men, according to the WBC, but men can identify as a woman, transition, and then fight us women. All I want is equal opportunity for all. Our bodies, our decision. Now, what Amanda is talking about is the WBC's decision in professional boxing to stop her from defending her title and being undisputed at featherweight because she decided to fight her last bout with 12 3-minute rounds like men do. Usually women box for 10 2-minute rounds in a world championship bout. She decided she wanted to do something different, something groundbreaking, and the WBC stripped her of her belt, meaning that she couldn't be the undisputed champion at her weight, despite having already won the WBC title. And the former unified super featherweight world champion Michaela Mayer has taken to Twitter to note a very important scientific point, saying hormone therapy is banned. By default, this should make trans athletes ineligible for competition, period. Doesn't matter how you feel about the situation. Fact is, it's illegal and completely disrupts the even level playing field that sport worked so hard to create. Riley Gaines, of course, a member of the University of Kentucky swim team and a huge part of the Leah Thomas story in swimming. She has said, do you understand what this means? Men will be glorified for beating up on women. Not only glorified, they will be deemed brave for such actions. And says that it's a slippery, slippery slope. When Happy Punch tweeted out this news, Mams Taylor from Misfits Boxing simply replied, nope, before Paul Bamba joked that he wanted a shot at Astrid Wett's world title. Dean the Great, one of the biggest prospects in Misfits Boxing and in influencer boxing in general, tweeted out that this was haram, and then added that no man should be able to walk into a bathroom where young girls are or compete and fight women. Natan Levy, the UFC fighter, has asked, how come no former females want to come and scrap with the boys? That's another interesting one, because it's not as though this is a one-way street. There are similar rules in place for females assigned at birth who are now male. Of course, Patricio Manuel, one of the biggest stories, he's undefeated as a professional boxer. He transitioned before his debut in 2018. It can happen. Of course, the blonde bomber, Ebony Bridges, she has been going hard on Twitter about this. She tweeted that she doesn't care about political correctness. It's politically incorrect to have a man fighting a woman. And I don't care. That's exactly what it is. This society is too soft. This is our health and safety. The girls need to stick together, or women's sport in 50 years will be filled with male-born champions. Ebony then responded to some fans. She asked, imagine being a little girl with a dream to break records, to train her whole life, to then be beaten by a trans woman who's been a man their whole life except for the last 2 years. Little girl's going to be thinking, what's the point in a few years? Now again, we need to remind people that the athlete has undergone gender reassignment surgery 4 years prior to when all the rest of the rules start to take form. So this is not going to be someone hopping over without any surgery done. Gender reassignment surgery is brutal mentally, physically. It takes a lot out of a person. And for someone to get through that and still want to compete athletically, it's going to be tough for any athlete to compete at the top level, even with all of the supposed advantages that come with being male assigned at birth. Happy Punch's own Sammy Jo Luxton got in on the debate. She tweeted, there are male and female divisions for a reason. Literal scientific reason. She also made a really interesting point that Muay Thai has accommodated transgenders for many years. Nong Rose transitioned and has continued to fight men to make it fair. She also added that they should just make their own division and leave us females alone. True Geordie, as well, one of the big commentators in this space, has made a video about it. Let's hear what he had to say on the issue.
I've got no problem in talking to someone who's transgender and addressing them however they want me to say that what they are. But I've definitely got a problem with people potentially killing people by having a ridiculous unfair advantage on the opponent. I don't care what the scenario is. That's whether you're cheating through drugs going into a boxing fight, whether you have had 20 years of added testosterone, whether you're using things in your gloves. I don't care what it is. This is not fair. And that's the point here. It's got nothing to do with discrimination or whatever. This is about sport, and it's about deadly sports like boxing. So in theory, Mike Tyson could get the surgery, wait 2 years, prove his testosterone levels are lower, jump in the ring, and beat the out of all of these women. One thing I'm confused about is, are these women allowed to refuse? Are they allowed to even know that the person's transgender? Would they be even told? Is that discriminatory that you even bring that up? How deep is this going to go?
The iconic Grand Slam women's MMA champion Chris Cyborg has said we need to protect women in sports, tagging Vivek Ramaswamy, the Republican US presidential candidate. I'm not seeing too much trans representation. I haven't seen a response from Fallon Fox as of the time of this video. Even Alana McLaughlin, like we talked about earlier, I don't see a definitive statement from Alana McLaughlin. I think she's made her position pretty clear on transgender athletes in combat sports. Finding anybody who's in favor of this new rule is difficult online. So this is obviously a super heated issue, and we want to know in the comment section what you think about transgender athletes competing in boxing. This is probably our last video of 2023, so I want to thank you all for watching over the last few months since I joined with Happy Punch. I will see you all very soon. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Let's have a bit of fun in the comment section, and I will see you all in 2024 for a new year with Happy Punch.